Hello everyone and welcome back. We have the third and final match of the opening round of the round of 16, best of 3. Our first round was won by Tenda, the Zerg player, with a very strong Zergling Hydra push on a 3-base timing at, I believe it was Overgrowth. Our second round was taken by our Orange Protoss player, Char, with a very good third base timing. He had plenty of Immortals and plenty of Archons with very good storms and good connections. The Zerg player did not have enough in his Roach Hydra Viper composition to stop the Protoss player. Let's introduce our players for this ace match and see who will be moving on and who will be the first to leave the Philadelphia StarCraft League tournament. In the lower left-hand corner, wearing the red war paint, we have our Zerg player, Tenda. Scouting his Overlord straight to the north, we have a cross spawn this time, and his other Overlord going to the right. And in the upper right hand corner, wearing the orange war paint, we have our Protoss player, Char. Protoss player taking a walled in fast expand. Let's see if he puts down a forge to begin building cannons to appropriately defend this. Now in our first game, we saw a rather standard play. There was a little bit of aggression coming out from the Protoss player, but the handful of Zealots and Phoenix he had was not enough for the 3-base Zerg at that time. A very strong retaliation from the Zerg player with plenty of Lings and Hydras to take game 1. The Protoss player learned from this, and in his aggression in the second game, he brought DTs to harass the 3rd base. At this time, he expanded to his 3rd base, and it got his economy built up. Once the economy was built up, he put it down several Immortals, started building Archons, and got Sonic Storm out. He pushed out as the Zerg player was looking to take a 5th, and got great connections in the middle of the map, dropping Sonic Storms on top of the Zerg player's Roach Hydra composition. The Vipers did good pulls, killing a few Archons and taking down the Mothership Core almost right away, but in the end, the Protoss player had way too much of a solid Tier 2 and Tier 3 composition and overwhelm the Zerg player. Now let's see what they've learned from each other and see how they decide to implement what they've learned about their opponents in this ace match. Looks like both players are playing fairly standard. Opening pool, quick expansion to the natural. Protoss player is not putting down his Nexus right away. He's getting a few Zealots out to make sure that any early Zergling timings will be shut down. Probe still harassing in the middle of the opponent's base. He'll see that there's a Queen moving down to the natural. Has he scouted towards the 3rd yet? No, he has not scouted towards the 3rd, but it's probably safe to assume at the 4-minute mark that the 3rd is not down yet. Protoss player sending out 4 Zealots to put a little bit of harassment on his Zerg opponent. This will allow him to safely expand on the back of this, and this strategy worked very well for him last round, though he had DTs to supplement his army. 2 gases, not yet fully saturated, but opening plenty of tech choices for the Protoss player. We have not seen the Cybernetics Core come down yet, so these Zealots are going to have to keep the Zerg player at bay. Hopefully this will make him overreact and build several Zerglings, reducing the amount of drones he can move to his 3rd base. Zerg player sees the Zealots come in, immediately reacts, putting an inject on the natural. Several Zerglings come out, and a Cybernetics Core and Forge is put down on the back of this. Good defense of the Queen with the drones. The Queen is back in the corner, getting good shots off on those Zealots, but the Zealots are chewing through the drones. We've got 14 Zerglings coming out, and the Zealots begin focusing down the natural. If he takes this, this will be a very distinct advantage for the Protoss player. Zerglings trying to get a good surround, but they are not nearly enough. All the Protoss units have lost their shields, and it looks like they're going to retreat. The damage has been done. The Zerg player had to build plenty of Zerglings to react to this and to begin saturating his 3rd. A very strong move from the Protoss player. Let's see how many resources were lost. The Zerg is only 300 resources behind and has lost 11 units. A very good, solid early attack that only cost a handful of Zealots from the Protoss player. we have a hidden expansion going down in the lower right-hand corner. If the Zerg does not spot this, this will give the Protoss a very distinct advantage, as he will be able to move into Detect Tier 2 and 3 tier units very quickly. Zerg player sees that there's a wall in and there's no chance of him getting in. Has the Zerg player scouted into the Protoss base yet? Just the edge of the natural, but he sees everything he needs to know at the moment. Probe finally gets cornered and taken out. This is a very exciting game so far on our ace match of the opening round of the Philadelphia StarCraft League. Zerglings moving in to see if they can get a little bit of harassment done. If the Protoss player isn't paying attention, he could take down that sentry, but it is not to be. The Zerglings retreat. And I believe that is rather unfortunate for the Protoss player. The expansion has been scouted. The Zerglings are on their way to take care of it. This is rather unfortunate. The Protoss is going to have to take his third base if he wants to expand. Very good map presence from our Zerg player, with his speedlings. He has seen almost the entire map. He has seen the entire map, and no shenanigans like this will be accepted. Protoss finishing up Warp Gate technology. He starts to bring out an observer so he can begin scouting against the Zerg player again. We have a hallucinated Phoenix heading out to see if he can get a look, and the third base is taken. Zerglings are in an aggressive position to cancel the third base. We don't have anything that can stop the Zerglings from doing such. Hallucinated Phoenix moving in. He's probably going to get a full scout of the Zerg base. The Zerg has decided to go Hydras again. That seems to be a favored unit of his, and I agree. Hydras are very powerful if you have enough Roaches or Zerglings to defend. What kind of technology do we have? We only have Speed and Warp Gate. Neither player has utilized the... Oh, I apologize. The Zerg player has not utilized his Evolution Chamber, but the Protoss is finishing +1. Now, +1 is very good against Zerglings. This lets the Protoss Zealots destroy Zerglings in 2 hits. Now, Zerglings can't put out very much damage in the time it takes a Protoss Zealot to deal 2 hits to him. Sorry for my stutter there. Protoss player going into Psionic Storm, which worked very well for him last round, and Zealot Legs. It looks like our Protoss is going to use the same composition he used last round, which again worked very well. The Observer will be destroyed by the Zerg Overseer. I'm getting tongue-tied here, aren't I? 1 cannon will not be enough to stop these Zerglings, but he can warp in Zealots if he chooses to. 5 gateways coming down. I believe our Protoss is looking to be aggressive very soon. This is being scouted by the Overseer. He sees the gateway coming. Does the Zerg player react? He has 11 drones coming down. Let's see what he does after those drones have finished. Hive Tech coming in very early. I think our Zerg player is very fond of his Vipers. 4th base going down at the 12-minute mark. Rather standard. Still have the Zerglings right outside of the Protoss base to prevent him from moving out, and just to keep an eye on what he's doing. 10 Hydralisks come in. He is more than ready for this, looks like 7 gate. Is it a 7 gate? Only a 5 gate with 2 warp gates. Oh, there we go. He has upgraded them to warp gate technology. More Immortals coming in, beginning to saturate his third base. Did the Mothership Core just go down? No. +2 coming in on melee units for our ground attack units for the Protoss player. And Archons warping in. This will do very well against a Zergling Hydralisk composition. The Protoss is using his composition from the second game that worked so well, and the Zerg player is relying on his composition from the first game that worked very well. Both players have used what they've learned from the last 2 matches to make a very educated decision on how to start this fight. But it looks like the Protoss player might have an army advantage at the moment. No, he does not, but he does have a composition advantage. Let's see how this plays out. Groove Spines coming... Oh, Glial Reconstruction coming in for the Roaches. An interesting choice, as there are no Roaches on the field. We have connection right here. Zealots getting good hits on the Zerglings. Storm dropping down on the Hydralisks, but they fall back. If the Zerglings can get us around, oh, the Mothership Core goes down. This is a very big win for the Zerg player. This will prevent the Protoss player from retreating, and the Protoss player will lose lots of money. The Hydralisk eating these storms as they chase, but they will take down those very expensive gas units. Another storm landing on top of the Hydralisk. If he turns around and fight, he can take out the Hydralisks. A very exciting matchup between the two. The Army Supply is now in favor of the Zerg player. And the Units Lost tab shows that several resources had almost about 2,000 resources lost more for the Zerg player, but on a 4-base economy, this is not that much. The Zerg player is continuing his aggression and sending out roaches. +2 is about to finish for the Protoss player. This will give him a very strong advantage over the only +1 range upgrade for the Zerg player. Connections here with the roaches, and only a handful of immortals to take care of them, but it might be enough without enough Hydralisk reinforcements. As they're coming in, he still has a full view of the natural. Protoss player warps in several zealots to begin combating the composition of the Hydralisk Roach Zerg player. These zealots will be very good for absorbing the damage. He's going to poke in here at the natural base, and the Protoss player might get us around on him if he comes in from the left and right. Storms land in the middle of the Hydralisk Roach composition. Don't suffer too much damage. He's just kind of poking and testing his opponent out, seeing where he can get an advantage over him. 5th base goes down, very standard for the Zerg player. Another storm lands. If he can keep pulling these storms out of his Protoss opponent, when he's ready to engage, there won't be any left. Miss-stormed. Zealots rush in and get destroyed immediately when they don't have their meteor opponents in the back. The Archons are having trouble getting around the Immortals to get into position. I believe if the Protoss player had a Colossus right now, that would help him a lot. Chargelots will be able to get good connections on these Hydralisks. They need to go for the Hydralisks because they don't do nearly enough damage to the Roaches. Looks like he's coming in to get an attack from the side. Storm goes down, but his Zealots eat most of the Storm. This is a very interesting game of cat and mouse coming from the two players, as the Zerg player is retreating. He is losing supply, and the Protoss continues to reinforce. We've got a proxy pylon down in near the 4th and 5th base of the Zerg player. The chase is continuing. These Chargelots are getting connections and getting juicy hits on the Hydralisks. +3 coming down for the Protoss player. 33 Hydralisks. This may have been an overreaction, but it might be enough to hold the Protoss back. He catches some Archons warping in and gets some free kills here at the front. Supplies are now maxed out and tied up. If the Zerg player can get his army together and use his defender's advantage, he may be able to push back the Protoss player. The storm connections and the position of the encounters will determine the fate of this game. We've got our Zealots running in. They absolutely melt to those Hydralisks with no armor upgrades. Zealots harassing the 4th base, getting kills on the drones. The supplies are still relatively even. We have pylons warping in to make sure reinforcements are ready for the Protoss player. Storms land, good land, forcing back the Hydralisks. Still very even supplies, good encounters. This is a very solid game from both players. We've got a split and a double attack from both sides of with the Hydralisk, but they are falling very quickly. Reinforcements coming in, 22 Roaches and 10 Hydralisks. +3 is about to finish for the Protoss player. This will give him a very distinct advantage. Still has those meaty units in the back. Lots more Zealots warping in. The 4th base is going down. He does not know about the 5th base yet, I believe. No, he does not. Immortals poking in at the natural with a Roach attack from the back, and one Immortal going down to the 3rd base. He won't be able to get much done. One of the buildings goes down for the Zerg player. The Immortals are out front, the Archons out front getting good connections. The Immortal is focusing down the Baneling nest, which there were no Banelings being used. Hydralisk getting shots here on this little bit of a Zealot ball, but they will die. Both players are dead even supply. This is a fantastic matchup. The 4th base is now undefended, and the Protoss player will use his chance to take it down. Sorry, couldn't come up with the right word there, could I? Roaches and Hydralisks picking off retreating units for the Protoss player. He might walk here here by the 5th base and see it. This will make him aware of it, and hopefully he will attack it. Oh, he does not go all the way to 5th base. He sees the creep there, hopefully he sees it, and realizes that there is a 5th base there that he needs to take care of. Pylon warping in more zealots to harass the 3rd. This is a great back and forth game. Non-stop action. We had the Zerg player harassing earlier, and now the Protoss has the Zerg player on his heels, but he is starting to get a supply disadvantage. He is teching up units in the back, getting his Colossus out, which will help a lot in the upcoming engagements, but at the moment, he does not have a whole lot. If the Zerg player were to push out with enough forces, though he does not have enough forces to push out, both players come back to a standstill in this game and begin macroing up for the next engagement. Let's see what's happened. The Protoss player has killed 23 workers against the Zerg. This is very good for him. Worker supply is about even. Army supply is in favor of the Protoss player, and the Zerg is not giving him a second's time to breathe as he retakes his 4th. The Protoss player is taking the 4th. He goes right in the middle line, and he is going to snipe the Nexus, completely ignoring the cannon, completely ignoring the probe. The 3rd base goes down for the Protoss player. I'm sorry, the Protoss player has a 4th base, and he's taking a 5th. The Hydralisk and the Roaches that were sent for this little aggression will be taken out. The Protoss player sitting at a very healthy 50 supply advantage. He's got his very tech-heavy gas units moving in. Several High Templar, 8 in the back, all ready to go to drop storms on his Protoss opponent. Extended Thermal Lance being researched. We have a Spire finishing. We might see a Muto switch here out of our Zerg player. That would put the Protoss back on his heels and force him to reconsider his defenses. His 5th base is up, but is not saturated yet. Poking in at the 3rd base, the Protoss player leads with Archons, Dark Templars, and of course, his Colossus. Zealots running to get connections on these Hydralisks. Storm goes down. A very good connection on the Storms with the Colossus. Now, Storms and Colossus burn through Hydralisk at a very alarming rate. More Storms go down on a handful of Hydralisk. He should probably save a few for reinforcements that are coming in. 11 Roaches being warped in. GG is called. Char is our winner. 2 out of 3 wins in the opening round of the Philadelphia StarCraft League. Congratulations. A great game from both players. This has been a pleasure to cast the opening round, and I hope everyone will stick around for what is sure to be a great day of StarCraft.